A Roman emperor watches as his enemies are torn apart by wild dogs. This brutal spectacle was not fiction, but a recorded event from the heart of the ancient world. By the end of this story, you will know the true identity of this infamous ruler and understand the calculated terror behind his actions. We will sift through ancient lies and propaganda to find the man behind the myth and examine how a single act of cruelty served as a powerful political message. What does it take for a leader to be remembered only for their brutality? The emperor who ordered this savage execution was Marcus Aurelius Antoninus, though history remembers him by a different name. He was Emperor Caracalla, a ruler whose very nickname came from the hooded Gallic cloak he popularized, a small personal detail overshadowed by a lifetime of brutality. Born as Lucius Septimius Bassianus in the year 188, his path to power was carved by his father, the formidable Septimius Severus, who founded the Severan dynasty. This was a family that seized the throne through civil war, and they ruled through a combination of military might and sheer terror, setting a precedent that young Caracalla would follow and then surpass. His father made him co-emperor in the year 198, when the boy was only 10 years old, a move meant to secure the succession, but one that planted the seeds for future conflict. That conflict came in the form of his younger brother, Geta. When Septimius Severus died in the year 211, he left the vast Roman Empire to be ruled jointly by his two sons, a disastrous arrangement from the start. The ancient historian Cassius Dio paints a vivid picture of their shared reign, describing a palace literally divided in two, with each brother building his own separate entrances and filling his quarters with armed guards, all because they could not stand to be in the same room. This was not mere sibling rivalry, it was a cold war at the heart of the empire. Caracalla, described as having a harsh appearance and a suspicious, volatile nature, quickly grew impatient. In the year 212, he arranged a meeting with their mother, Julia Domna, supposedly for reconciliation. When Geta arrived, Caracalla's centurions sprang from hiding and murdered his brother right in their mother's arms. Caracalla then raced to the Praetorian Guard camp, claimed he had narrowly escaped his brother's assassination plot, and paid the soldiers a massive bonus to secure their loyalty. He followed this act of fratricide with a thorough purge, ordering the execution of thousands of Geta's friends, supporters, and even household staff, including famous philosophers and lawyers. This is the man we are dealing with, a ruler for whom extreme violence was a standard political tool. His paranoia was matched only by his military ambition, spending most of his reign on campaign, and it was this very combination of cruelty, fear, and a desire to project absolute strength that makes the story of the wild dogs not just plausible, but perfectly in character. In the brutal theater of Severan Rome, such a spectacle would have been a clear, horrifying message. Cassius Dio provides the chilling detail that anchors this entire legend. A senator who lived through Caracalla's reign, he writes that after the purge of Geta's supporters, the emperor, quote, threw them out to be devoured by dogs, unquote. This is not a vague rumor from centuries later. It is a direct accusation from a contemporary political insider. But we must read Dio with caution. He despised Caracalla, openly calling him a common enemy of all mankind. His history is filled with scorn, portraying the emperor as paranoid, crude, and relentlessly cruel. So, is this story a factual record, or is it the embellished propaganda of a bitter aristocrat? To find out, we look at other sources. The Historia Augusta, a later and often unreliable collection of biographies, confirms Caracalla's brutality, listing various methods of execution, but it does not specifically mention wild dogs. This absence is telling. If such a spectacularly savage act was common knowledge, why would a source that loves sensational details leave it out? This discrepancy forces us to consider the symbolic weight of the act itself. In the Roman world, a proper burial was sacred. Denying it by leaving a body to be torn apart by animals was more than just killing. It was a deliberate act of dehumanization, erasing a person from memory and condemning their spirit to unrest. For Caracalla, who had just murdered his own brother, this symbolic terror would have been a powerful message to any remaining opposition. Their fate would be complete annihilation, body and soul. Was this a one-time spectacle or a recurring method? The historical record is silent on repeat performances, which suggests it may have been a singular, horrific example designed for maximum psychological impact. Archaeologically, we have no mass graves with the telltale marks of canine teeth, no inscriptions commemorating such an event. The evidence, then, rests almost entirely on the word of one deeply biased man. So where does that leave the legend? It lives in that shadowy space between provable fact and profound truth. Whether or not literal dogs were set upon prisoners that day, Cassius Dio's account captures the essential nature of Caracalla's rule. It was a regime where the boundaries of civilized punishment dissolved, where enemies could be transformed into carrion. The story of the wild dogs endures not necessarily as a forensic fact, but as a perfect metaphor for the emperor's consuming brutality. The arena was never just a place for blood sport, it was Rome's most powerful stage for political theater. Every execution held there was a carefully scripted performance, a brutal form of communication between the emperor and his people. For Caracalla, in The Fragile, blood-soaked months after his brother's murder, the message needed to be unmistakable. Throwing his enemies to the dogs was not a spontaneous act of rage, it was psychological warfare designed to paralyze any thought of opposition. The Roman populace, accustomed to violence, would have understood the symbolism instantly. A quick beheading was a political statement, but being consumed by beasts was something far darker. It signaled total erasure, a fate so degrading it stripped the victim of all dignity, denying them even the basic Roman rite of a proper funeral. For the watching senators, the message was even more personal. It told them that their status, their lineage, their philosophical debates meant nothing. They could be reduced to scraps of flesh just as easily as any common criminal. This created an atmosphere of pure, suffocating fear, where the slightest whisper of dissent could lead to a horrifying, public end. Why dogs, specifically? The choice was deeply symbolic. In the Roman mind, dogs were liminal creatures, associated with the underworld watchdog Cerberus, and were often seen as unclean scavengers. Using them as executioners tied the victims to concepts of filth and eternal damnation, further cementing their status as enemies of the state who deserved no mercy in this life or the next. Caracalla was not inventing this language of terror. He was simply speaking it with a shocking new dialect. Rome had a long tradition of using spectacular violence for control. Rebels were crucified along roads, prisoners were forced to fight exotic beasts, and emperors like Nero used Christians as human torches. Each act served a dual purpose, to entertain the masses and to demonstrate the absolute, unchallengeable power of the ruler. Caracalla's method, whether literally true or powerfully metaphorical, fit perfectly into this grim tradition. It was the ultimate propaganda of the deed, a silent scream that echoed through the forums and villas of Rome, telling everyone that the new emperor's power was as feral, as hungry, and as ruthless as the animals in the sand. Yet this emperor, remembered for such profound cruelty, also authored one of the most transformative laws in Roman history. In the very same year he murdered his brother, 212, Caracalla issued the Constitutio Antoniniana, the Antonine Constitution. With a single edict, he granted full Roman citizenship to every free person living within the empire's vast borders. On the surface, this seems like a monumental act of generosity, a visionary move to unify a diverse realm. But Caracalla's motivations were far more pragmatic and financially driven. The ancient sources, particularly Cassius Dio, are blunt about the reason. By making everyone citizens, Caracalla dramatically increased the number of people liable to pay two key taxes, the inheritance tax and the manumission tax on freed slaves. The imperial coffers, drained by his massive bribes to the army and his lavish building projects, needed refilling. This was not idealism, it was a fiscal maneuver disguised as a gift. The social and political impact, however, rippled far beyond his treasury. It fundamentally changed what it meant to be Roman. No longer was citizenship a privileged status for Italians and select provincial elites. It became a universal identity shared by millions from Britain to Syria. This created a new, broader legal framework for the empire, but it also diluted the old privileges, causing resentment among the traditional aristocracy, who who saw their exclusive status vanish overnight. Caracalla's ambition was also carved in stone. His most enduring physical legacy is the Baths of Caracalla, one of the largest and most opulent bath complexes ever built. These were not mere swimming pools. They were monumental leisure palaces covering over 30 acres, featuring vast heated halls, towering libraries, gymnasiums, and intricate mosaic floors. The ruins still stagger visitors today. Building this colossus was a statement of power and a tool for popular control, offering the common people of Rome unparalleled luxury and distraction, buying their loyalty with marble and steam. Militarily, he modeled himself after Alexander the Great, embarking on relentless campaigns along the Germanic frontier and launching a major war against the Parthian Empire in the east. It was during this eastern campaign, in the year 217, that his reign of terror ended. While stopped to relieve himself on a roadside near Carrhae, he was assassinated by a disgruntled soldier, a sudden and ignoble death for a man who lived by the sword. So how do we reconcile these two faces of Caracalla, the savage executioner and the administrative reformer? They are two sides of the same imperial coin. His grant of universal citizenship consolidated state power and revenue. His baths pacified the urban populace. His military campaigns projected strength. Every action, from the law to the brutality, served a single purpose: to secure his absolute authority and stabilize a dynasty born from fratricide. The wild dogs, whether real or symbolic, were a tool for immediate terror. The citizenship decree was a tool for long-term control. Together, they paint the complex portrait of a Roman emperor, a reminder that in the ancient world, profound legacy could be built with one hand while the other wielded a blade. So we are left with Marcus Aurelius Antoninus, Emperor Caracalla, a man of profound and unsettling contradictions. He was the emperor who may have fed his enemies to wild dogs, a brutal act of political theater designed to crush dissent through sheer terror. Yet he was also the emperor who, with a single stroke of his pen, granted Roman citizenship to millions, forever reshaping the social fabric of the ancient world. He built one of history's most magnificent public bath complexes to win the love of the people, while ruling through paranoia and fratricide. Which of these legacies defines him? The answer is that they both do. In the ruthless calculus of Roman imperial power, cruelty and statecraft were not opposites, they were tools in the same kit. The story of the wild dogs, whether a literal event or a potent metaphor crafted by his enemies, captures the essence of his rule, a warning written in blood and sand about the price of absolute authority. It reminds us that history's most memorable figures are often mosaics of light and shadow, their grandest achievements forever tinged by the methods used to secure them. So what do you think? Was Caracalla truly the monster who ordered such a savage spectacle? Or was this story an exaggerated political smear, a powerful lie that stuck because it fit the character of a hated ruler? The evidence sits in that fascinating gray area, and that's where the best historical mysteries live. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for joining me on this deep dive into a forgotten corner of the ancient world. If you enjoyed unraveling this mystery, please subscribe for more journeys into the past, where we always look for the truth behind the legend.